So what I love about Pipes is that it's fun to use. And I think the initial attraction to Pipes is, for most people, is the editor. And what the editor is this visual tool where you have to drag on these modules, and then you have to drag these wires from one module to another to basically build your data flow. It's kind of like building blocks. As you use Pipes more and more, it actually becomes really fast to build your custom data feed. Sometimes it's even faster than if you were to code it out yourself. So not only is Pipes fun to use, it's also very powerful. You can create new data. You could augment data, decrement data, combine data, and filter on data. There are some limitations with Pipes, and some of these limitations are solved by using YQL within Pipes, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. And how many people here have used Pipes before? OK, awesome. So for those of you that haven't used it, you'll learn how to create a pipe here. And those of you that know that used Pipes before, hopefully you learn a little bit more about it. How many people have used YQL before? OK, a lot more people. Excellent. You can create more powerful pipes by using YQL within Pipes. And you'll just have a little bit more of an advantage because you know how to use YQL. So this is the overview, what I'm going to talk to you about today. I'm going to give a little introduction to Pipes. What is Pipes, why you should use Pipes, creating a pipe. I'm going to start out with a simple pipe creation. Extending the functionality with Pipes by using YQL. There's 3 different ways that you could go about doing that. And I'll show you how to actually use YQL within Pipes using those modules. And finally, using the Pipes data. So what is Pipes? Well, if you haven't been there before, you can go to pipes.yahoo.com to actually check it out. So Pipes is a visual programming tool that allows you to create and transform data from the internet. And I think the best way to kind of describe that to you is showing you what a pipe looks like. So here's an example of the editor with a simple pipe. It's using the fetch feed module, and it's bringing in 2 RSS feeds. And you simply drag a wire, and you connect it to the pipe output to get your single master feed. So this is an example of a simple pipe. And they can get complex. And really complex. And they can grow quite large as well. So what is Pipes again? Pipes is a visual programming tool that allows you to create and transform data from the internet. So after what people usually ask me, what is Pipes? And I give them that answer. The next question usually is, what can I do with Pipes? How will it help me? And what do Pipes users currently do? So here are some of the popular use cases for Pipes. The #1 use case for Pipes is feed aggregation. This is where you bring in a whole bunch of RSS feeds or data feeds from REST endpoints, and you could filter on it. The second one is 2-source mashups. An example of this is if you bring in, let's say, a Craigslist RSS feed, and you want to see a price point against Amazon. This is another popular use case. Data transformation and geocoding. This is where you might have a news feed and you want to augment it. You're basically making that data more rich, so you can actually apply a geocoding filter to it. And if you apply it to a map case, you can actually see pinpoints of where a particular article might be. And complex mashups using REST APIs and YQL. And an example of that is, let's say you want to create a custom search pipe. You can enter, let's say, a city, and this pipe will actually go out and fetch the weather for a particular city, Twitter feeds, news APIs, what have you. So these are the 4 popular use cases for pipes right now. So I'm going to just quickly go through how to actually get to the pipes editor. You go to pipes.yahoo.com. You need to be logged into Yahoo. And you simply click on the Create a Pipe link. So you need to be logged in. And to access the editor, click on Create a Pipe. And this is the pipe editor. This area is where you drag the modules onto this workspace area. And this dark gray area is where you see the output of your pipe. On the left-hand corner here is where you can grab your external data, either RSS, a REST API, YQL data, Flickr data. You could create your own data using the item builder module. There's a lot of things that you can access data from. CSV data as well. These are the user input modules. This is where users can enter data into your pipe if you needed to. They can enter text URLs, that kind of thing. This is the operator modules. This is where you basically, the set of modules you use the most, these modules will be used to massage the data into the format that you need. You have a URL builder module that helps you construct URLs. Some string modules that help you with string manipulation. You can apply a translate module that would translate your feed or data. There's a term extractor module which will actually extract special keywords from text. We have some date modules that will help you build date values and format dates. And we have a location builder that will help you build geolocated data and a simple math function. Here's the list of favorite pipes that I've tagged throughout the pipe site. And here's a list of my pipes that I've created. So to drag a module onto the workspace, you just click and drag it. It's really easy to do. And you can drag more than one module on. And I'm just going to demonstrate how you actually wire up a module. It's really easy to do. The receptor will light up, showing you where you can actually connect a particular module. If it doesn't light up, that means you can't connect to it. And this is just a basic framework of what a pipe might look like. There's no data on here. It's just an empty pipe with some modules. So that's the pipes editor. So after you save a pipe, every pipe gets its own landing page. And what a landing page is, it's basically where you can see your pipe output. By default, every pipe gets a list view. So this is a list rendering of what your pipe might have in HTML. If there happens to be image data, you'll get an image tab, and it'll actually show you a slideshow of what images are in your feed. It also shows you on the left-hand column here some metadata of the pipe, and it shows you, when it was published, how many clones were made from this pipe. You can share your pipe through various social networks. You could tag your pipe, so it's easier to find. It shows what sources are used within the pipe, and what modules were used to build the pipe, and a little thumbnail of what it actually looks like. This is also where you can delete your pipe, edit your pipe, publish your pipe, and clone your pipe. This is also the area where you grab the links that you will use in your application. So let's say if I want to import this pipe into Google Reader, there's a convenient Google button there, as well as get as RSS. If you want to import that into your blog or website. There's also a My Yahoo button there that will import this pipe into your My Yahoo modules. Get as JSON is the link that you'll use if you want to use this data in a JavaScript application or any kind of application that you might need. If there's geolocated data, you'll get a Actually, sorry, this is the image view of what this pipe looks like. And here is a map view of geolocated data. So again, the pipes landing page is basically an easy place to see, share, and change your data for pipes. So why would I use pipes? Well, it's easy to use. There's no new language to learn. You just drag and connect modules together. It's a Yahoo hosted service, so you don't have to rely on your own server. It's hosted at Yahoo. And you're leveraging a large infrastructure. So we have multiple servers around the world. If you were to access your data, it's just a lot quicker than if you were to host it on your ISP, which might be just here in California. And Yahoo has large internet pipes, so it's easy for us to access data faster than if you were to access data on your ISP, which might be bogged down by other services. We provide easy to use REST style URLs, so it's easy to get the data that you need. And a lot of data out on the internet is good, but there's some pieces of data out there that might be malicious. And the pipes engine actually sanitizes that code, it cleans it, and if a feed happens to be malformed with the wrong encoding type, the pipes engine will actually repair it into UTF-8 correctly. After a pipe is run, it's cached for performance, so you don't have to wait for it to render. It's really quick. And a lot of us here learned HTML by viewing source in a browser. And we take the same analogy to pipes. You can view a pipe source. This is the way developers learn. And if you happen to see a pipe that you like, you could actually clone it or copy it and further tweak it to provide the data that you need. Pipes has a graphical editor that makes it quick to create pipes. You just use a browser. You don't have to download software or install a plugin. You just kind of go. It uses HTML5, the canvas tag, to draw the actual wiring. This was done before HTML5 was a buzzword. And pipes also parses and consumes popular formats such as XML, JSON, CSV, and ICAL that a lot of REST APIs out there provide. So we had some recent pipe enhancements. We have a new engine, which was launched this past August. Previously, it was a Perl-based engine, which didn't scale very well. It was kind of slow. So it was completely rewritten using Java, and it's the same engine as YQL. We also migrated from MySQL to the data cloud storage NoSQL. It's called Sherpa in Yahoo. And before, if you created a pipe and then you saved it, you might see some lag when you went to your landing page. This was because there was some replication lag between the MySQL servers, and with Sherpa, it's now pretty instant. You can save a pipe and almost immediately run it. It's also quicker to load your pipes in the editor. And we also upgraded the pipes badges to YUI3 just to make it more current and more stable. Pipes badges are these snippets where you can put the list, map, or image views onto your website or blog. It's just an easy, convenient way of doing that. So that was a brief introduction on pipes. There's many, many talks about pipes if you want to kind of dig further. So let's go about creating a pipe. And for this example, I'm going to use I'm going to create a custom news feed featuring iPhone-only articles. And I'm going to aggregate from 4 different RSS sources. I'm going to filter the titles only showing iPhone in the title. I'm then going to sort it by date, showing the newest article first. And I'm going to unique the title so I don't show duplicates. So again, here's the pipes homepage. And let's create a pipe. So you need to be logged in again and click on Create a Pipe. So I'm going to drag on the fetch feed module and enter Engadget. Hit refresh, see the output in the debugger. And to add more feeds to the fetch feed module, you simply click on the plus button, and it adds another field. I'm going to add Mashable in there. So currently I have 40 items. And hit refresh, 70. Keep on clicking URL. Add crunch gear. I have 90 items now, and I'm going to add Uber Gizmo. So I have my 4 feeds that I now am aggregating from, and I want to filter these items. I'll use the filter module, and I want to permit items that match all of the following, not any, but all. And here's a rule set. I could add multiple rules, but for this example, I'm going to use 1. And I want to make sure that the title contains iPhone. I'm going to use the regex matching because it's a little more powerful than contains. And I'll use an inline modifier that indicates case insensitivity. And out of the 120 now, I have 3. So now I want to sort it by date. And I notice that there's a Y:published node here. So I'm going to sort on that using the sort module. Type in Y:published, and I want it in descending order, newest to oldest. And I check the pub date here, November 3rd, November 2nd, and November 1st. So it looks like my sort worked. And then I want to make sure that the titles are unique. All these are unique now, but I don't know that in the future because they're coming from different sources. And I want them unique based on title. So I drag on the unique module. And to finalize the pipe, I connect it to the pipe output module. Hit refresh. It looks like that's the data that I want. I could press the layout button that actually formats the modules a little bit nicer. And hit the save button. I'll call it iPhone newsfeed. And I'll hit run pipe, which takes me to the landing page. And because there's images in this pipe, I'll see an image tab, and here's the default list tab. And if I want to use the RSS, I can see the raw RSS feed from this pipe, put that into my newsreader of choice. I could also edit this landing page to a custom name to make it easier to share, and I'll call it iPhone newsfeed. And that's how you create a simple pipe. So again, this is the URL if you want to check out that pipe to see how it was built. And for this pipe, I used the filter module, which uses regex and inline modifiers. It's more powerful. It's a little harder to use than just contains, which only matches on case. By using the regex part, you could add the inline modifier $I to make sure it's case insensitive for a particular keyword. If you see Y:published in your output, you know you just sort on that because some normalization had happened with the dates. That means you pulled in either an RSS feed or an Atom feed, and the Pipes engine basically normalized that date to Y:published, and you would sort on that. If you're only using RSS feeds, then you could sort on pub date or somewhere. So here are the various pipes outputs that are available to you. RSS, JSON, and serialized PHP are always available. CSV, YCal, and KML are optional depending on if that pipe supports that output. And the cool thing with KML is that you can actually paste the KML pipes output into the search bar in Google Maps. And here's an example of that. So here's a pipe map, and I'll go to more options, copy the link, get as KML. I'll go to Google Maps, paste in the KML link there, and hit search. And now Google Maps is being powered by Yahoo Pipes to show the data. and have the same pinpoints. You can zoom in and see the callouts for the data. So Pipes does have some limitations. It can't authenticate OAuth-based systems, and there's no script module, meaning you can't use a traditional programming language to process simple utility type of functions. And these limitations can be solved by using YQL within Pipes. So this is a really brief intro on YQL. What is YQL? You can go to that URL to check out the YQL console. And YQL is this web service that allows developers to query, filter, and combine data. It's very similar to Pipes. It's basically the inverse. It's not graphical-based, but text-based. YQL uses an SQL-like syntax. So it was made this way so it's familiar to developers, so you didn't have to learn a whole brand new language to use YQL. And YQL allows server-side JavaScript execution, so we can actually perform our utilities there. And it's able to use OAuth for authentication, where Pipes can't currently. So these are the 3 modules that you can use in Pipes to bring in YQL data. It's the fetch data module, the YQL module, and the web service module. And I'll go through each module to show you how it works. So extending Pipes with YQL using the fetch data module. Why would I use this? Well, this module supports HTTPS. So if YQL gives you a HTTPS endpoint, this is the only module that will actually accept it. The other 2 don't support HTTPS. It's easy to paste in a YQL endpoint. You just copy the REST endpoint from the YQL console into the fetch data module. And it has this really cool path to item list convenience, so you could drill down to the data that you actually want. So for this example, I'm going to use Twitter, and it's going to list tweets from people that I follow. So for this example, I need to go to dev.twitter.com first to get 4 items. I need to get my consumer key, consumer secret, my access token, and my access token secret. You have to create an application in Twitter to get these keys. So I'm going to copy these 4 keys, go to my YQL console. I'm going to use the twitter.statustimeline.friends table. And I'm going to use the query builder, which is this tab on the right-hand side, to give me a form-like interface to actually input the keys that I got from Twitter. And then I'll hit the test button, and it'll actually create the query for me, so I don't have to type it in. And after it forms the query, I'll hit test, and I'll see that the data is returned. It looks correct to me. And then at the bottom here is the REST query endpoint that I'm going to use within my fetch data module in Pipes. So I'm going to copy this link. Oops. And I'm actually going to show a little demo on how to do that. So here's the console. I can see that I'm getting the correct data. I go down to the REST query. I'm going to copy it. Go to the Pipes editor, drag on the fetch data module, paste it in. And I can see in my debugger that I got some output. I'm going to expand on that. So I have results, statuses, status. And what I really want is just this status set, the status node. So I'm going to use the path to item list to drill down on that data, because I don't need the data that's on top. And now I have the list that I want to operate on. So because this isn't RSS, I'm going to need to format it into RSS. And the text node here is the tweet. The user node has the description of the username that I also want to bubble up in my RSS feed. So I'm going to drag on the rename module, connect that together, and I'm going to construct my title and description tags. So I know I want my title to be the tweet, so I'm going to enter item.text, and I want to rename that to title, since we're using RSS. And I want the user's description to be in my description node. So I'm going to rename user.description to just description. I'm also going to want a placeholder for my friend's name and create a temporary variable node called uname. So I want to find, well, these are the title and description tags that were just created, the tweet and the description. And now I want to find the name of the user. And I'm going to put that into a temporary node called uname. And that's how I'm going to actually prepend the title with the user's name. So in order to prepend the user's name in front of the title, I have to use the regex module, connect that together. And in the title, I want to prepend with the user's name. And I could use a variable substitution $ curly brace to actually bring in that variable. So here we have the user's name, colon, and their tweet. To finalize the pipe, you have to drag it to the pipe output. Hit save. I'll name it Twitter Friends. And I'll run the pipe. And here we have the list view. We have the people that I followed, their username, their tweet, and a description of who they are. I can use the get as RSS links and get as JSON to use that data within my application or newsreader. So that's how you go about using the fetch data module. This is the link to that example. And again, because we're not dealing with RSS data, we need to create the title and description nodes. You can use the $ curly brace node here, variable substitution, to find those nodes and kind of construct the data that you want using the regex module. And Pipes actually caches data for 30 minutes, so it's not exactly real time, but it's still pretty current. So the next one is the YQL module. Why would I use this one? Well, it's the easiest one to use. So this is what the YQL module looks like. I could just type in my query. For this example, I'm going to actually go to IPO home using select star from HTML, where the URL equals the URL that I want. And I'm going to use XPath to drill down to the data that I actually want for my application. So Pipes currently doesn't support XPath, but you can use YQL to get that data for you. So here's a pipe with the YQL module. I'll start the demo. You just drag it on, and here's the query. I'm basically extracting specific information from this website, and I basically want to find all upcoming IPOs. And again, I need to use a regex module to construct the RSS feed. So when I use the YQL module, it actually imports the HTML as nodes, and I can use the variable substitution to actually drill down to that and construct my title, link, and description nodes for RSS. So from IPO home, I'm actually seeing upcoming IPOs, Groupon, which launched today, and all IPOs that might have launched this week. I don't believe IPO home actually offers RSS feed that features this set of data. So I went out and created it myself. And here's the list view. You could use this within your RSS reader, so you can see what IPOs are coming up, so you can buy them or not. That's the raw RSS. So again, here's a link to that example. You could go to PJ Donnelly Work IPOs. And again, we use the YQL module and the regex module using the $ curly brace for the variable substitution. So the final way to use YQL within Pipes is using the web service module. And what the web service module is it basically allows you to export Pipes data to another service that's not on Yahoo or within Yahoo to extend the functionality of the pipe. So why would I use the web service module? Well, it's good for when you need to extend Pipes utility functions, such as randomizing a feed or getting a string or word count from a title, etc. So this is probably for more experienced Pipes and YQL users. So for this example, I'm going to count the words in a title. You should probably be familiar with YQL table creation. And here's the YQL table base template that I'm going to use to actually further process my pipe. You'll use this template every time when using the web service module with Pipes. So you could just basically copy and paste this when you create a table. So you want to make sure that the key ID is equal to data. This is basically where Pipes puts in the data that YQL will process. And to use the server-side JavaScript, you're going to put all your JavaScript within the execute block. And that's the only part that you really want to worry about. OK, so here's a quick demo of how to do that. So here's I have a predefined Pipes template in my tables. I'm going to just copy and paste that, since it's always the same. I'm going to create a new YQL table and paste that template in. Again, I want to make sure that the key node has ID equals data. And I'm going to rename this table to word count. And to put all your server-side JavaScript, you use it within the execute block. I'm importing a JavaScript parsing library. And I'm going to parse that JSON data. And I make sure that it's using data there to parse that variable name. The data that comes in from Pipes is an array, so I'm just going to do a simple for loop and iterate over that. It's always going to come in with the array named items, so we're going to make sure we iterate over that. And this is where I'm going to augment the data. I'm going to create a new node called word count. And to get the word count, I'm just going to use simple JavaScript. So I'm going to find the title, and then I'm going to use the JavaScript split function to get the amount of to get the word count from the title. And we're done. It's easy as that. I'm going to add in response.object, so YQL sends back the information to Pipes, and use pdata. So again, I'm importing the JavaScript parser library. I'm parsing the JSON. I'm iterating over it. I'm augmenting the data. And I'm finding out how many words are in the title. So I'm going to save this table, refresh it. I see that the new table is there. And I'm going to change my query to select star from word count, where data equals @data. And this is how YQL will get the Pipes data. And I'm going to further shorten this by using a query alias. I'll just call it word count, so I don't have this long REST query at the bottom. And now it's shortened to just word count. I'm going to copy this REST query and go back to Pipes. And I want to find how many words are in each title from, let's say, dig. So I'm going to fetch a feed, bring on the web service module, just paste in that endpoint that I created from YQL. Hit refresh. I can see that there's data there. Again, I want to just work with the items node nodes. So I'm going to drill down to that result set using path to item list. Hit refresh. Now I'm just dealing with the items. I can see that word count is there now, which was provided by YQL. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words, and that's correct. And that'll be for each article. That metadata is now there. Just save my pipe. And that's how, this is a simple example of how to use YQL as a web service module. So an example, to get to this example, you could go to that URL on top, pjdonnellywork/word count, and to see the actual XML that was used in the YQL table creation, just go to my GitHub location. Also at this location, GitHub/hapdaniel/pipes, there's many YQL execute examples for the Pipes web service module. HapDaniel is a developer who doesn't work for Yahoo, but he's a huge contributor to Pipes and the YQL communities. He's really good. So how do we use pipe data? I'll talk about the Pipes URL anatomy and a really easy example with YUI and Pipes. So again, this is the landing page for Pipes. If you want to use this pipe data in your RSS feed or reader, you would just click on Get as RSS. But if you want to use Pipes data in JavaScript, in a JavaScript application or any other type of application that accepts JSON, you can copy and paste the Get as JSON link. And when I copy and paste it, it looks like this. Underscore ID has the ID of the pipe. It's unique. Underscore render equals JSON means that I'm going to get JSON output. If I substitute that with RSS or KML, that's the type of output I would get. And these are the customized parameters that users can input to your pipe. So this pipe actually accepts stock tickers. This can be changed to display stocks that you actually want to see. And we provide this JSONP callback. You have to use underscore callback equals whatever your JavaScript function is going to be. And that's the Pipes URL. So if you want to use YUI with Pipes, you can use the JSONP module. You just use your simple YUI construct, use construct, and then you use the JSONP library. If you go to the yellow code, it's just basically one line. You do y.jsonp. The first argument is the Pipes URL. And you want to notice that underscore callback is curly brace callback. So this YUI library actually dynamically creates the JSONP callback name. And then the second argument is the function that will handle the incoming JSON. And this one's just a simple function that's going to output the data into y.log or console.log. The other example that's on the YUI library right now is using YUI.io. They have a great example on how to use Pipes with that particular module. And that's the end of my talk. Thank you.